Stand while Mr. Rick Patrick leads us in the prayer and the pledge.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity and the freedom we have to come and meet together to discuss the business of the school district here in Madison. Lord, we pray that you would be among us in this meeting. Lord, we pray that everything that would happen in this meeting would happen in accordance with your will. These things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the February 13th special session. The Sunshine Law requires that the school board meet and perform its duties in public. This meeting in public is an opportunity for the board to discuss and make decisions around its slated agenda. Citizens have the right to observe the meeting and hear all comments made by its members. School board meetings, however, are not a meeting of the public, an opportunity for the public to comment during meetings. On behalf of my fellow board members, at this time I would like to invite and encourage you, members of the audience, to sign up regarding district issues. If you'll notice on the sign-up sheet, we have two different spots. You can, the first will be comments from the public on agenda items. The last public comment will be comments from the public on non-agenda items. Please begin by stating your name. You will be limited to 3 minutes. This is your 3 minutes. The clock will not be stopped during your 3 minutes until your 3 minutes are completed. We will not be acting on the issues tonight unless they are part of the agenda. If you have a question, we will refer you to the proper person. We will be listening and taking notes. I'd like to read one of our board policies about public participation at board meetings. All statements shall be directed to the chair. No person may address or question board members individually. Staff members shall not be expected to answer questions from the audience unless called upon by the board chair or the superintendent. I'd like to thank you for supporting the Madison County school system. Ms. Cherry.
Good evening. My name is Gladney Cherry. I spoke to y'all a couple of weeks ago when we started down this journey, and I just wanted to come tonight and address one final thing. I know y'all have important decisions to make tonight. I know this has not been an easy road. I know this has been a hard road. The first thing I want to say is I want to thank all of you. I want to thank all you board members. I want to thank Mr. Stallnaker. I want to thank Mr. Copeland, Dr. Pickles. This has been an incredibly hard time for our county. I appreciate you listening to what taxpayers have said. I appreciate the professionalism, Mr. Copeland, that you have shown when you've been asked question after question after question, and you answer it to the best of your ability, no way being able to handle all the questions that are thrown at you. Thank you. And I thank you, board members, for spending your time to try to help our students. There's no way you can make enough money for this job. I know for a fact there have been years I know that Bart Alford and Kenny Hall spent more money for the students in Madison County than they ever made on this job. So I just wanted to do that first. Secondly, on your financial recovery plan, I know y'all have more decisions to make. Tonight's just your first night. As you go down the road, please consider grant-paid positions. They cannot help you with your general fund deficit. In the ESE department, it comes out of IDEA. All your district staff is paid out of IDEA, not general dollars. They may have 4% so they can handle gifted or 504s, but they're primarily out of the IDEA. Special needs students can generate weighted funding, but the weighted FTE funding does not come into the district unless your trained staffing specialist can do all the paperwork necessary for that weighted funding to be accurate. It's constantly monitored, and the district would have to pay it back if it was not done correctly. So you've got trained professionals here that love their job, that are paid from grant dollars. So I just ask y'all to think about that as y'all go through and make more decisions to try to save our district's educational process. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mrs. Cherry.
Thank you.
Mr. Williams?
Madam Chair, I would like to reserve time and speak to the agenda item if necessary for the financial recovery.
Okay, this is your turn to speak now, or you can speak at the end, whatever you desire.
I would like to reserve that time to speak.
At the end?
Consider that particular item.
Okay, we'll let you speak at the end. I'll put your name down here at the bottom. All right.
I think what he's asking is to speak when the agenda item comes up.
That's exactly right, Mr. Reeves. I think he misunderstood.
So, and as chair, you can allow that, or you can require
Okay,
that he speak.
I understand now. All right. Under items for individual consideration, 3.1, Memorandum of Agreement with Madison County Education Association. Dr. Pickles?
As you know, we had negotiations with the union. The union ratified yesterday, actually early this morning, the results were sent out, and the instructional staff voted 91%, 91.3% accepted, non-instructional accepted 92%, according to Ms. Roberts. So both the instructional and non-instructional contracts were ratified. So according to this, we had a committee, a furlough calendar committee met, and all the information is there. They recommend a district calendar date change. And in that, they would like to make April 11th the calendar change and make that a full day instead of a half day. And they also would like to change March 8th and make that Friday. Historically, that Friday is typically a low attendance day and a day that a lot of staff are out, so we have a high sub day. So they would like to change some of that. So because of that, they are trying to look at the greatest impact financially that would help the district. So this is what they would like to do. And then the other day was the March 24th. So those are some of the days. So these are the dates the calendar committee came up with. So these are things that they came up with. And there are other, May 24th. Their other thing that was of great concern, and they actually called and put me on speakerphone, they do not want the days coming out of one paycheck. A lot of our staff live paycheck to paycheck and are very low pay. And when you think about a custodian, a para, things like that, they really would like to have these 2 furlough days, or we have single parents, and they really want to spread this out over the paychecks from February to June, so out of the remaining paychecks. So there's lessens the financial burden on our staff. I agreed, I understand, I sympathize. So for our single parents, for everyone. So they were able to ratify it, so I do ask that the board approve the agreement with the Madison County Educational Association.
Thank you for that information, Dr. Pickles. Is there a motion to approve the Memorandum of Agreement with the Madison County Education Association?
I make the motion to approve the agreement with the Madison County Educational Association. Included in the motion to change the day on the calendar from April 11th to a full day and the day off of March the 8th, 2019 and May the 24th, 2019.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Alfred, second by Ms. Williamson to approve the Memorandum of Agreement with Madison County Education Association. Any discussion or questions?
Madam Chair, I think you're also going to need to approve the compensation being spread out over all of the remaining pay periods in this fiscal year.
Right.
You can do that by separate motion, but that needs to be part of the approval.
By a show of hands, all in favor? Oppose? Becky, 5-0. We also, is there a motion to approve spreading out the payments over a 5-month period?
I make the motion to approve spreading out the payments over the 5-month period.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Alford, second by Mr. Mr. Daniels, to approve spreading out our payments over a 5-month period.
And just to be clear, that's the remainder of the
That's the remainder of the year, right. Mm-hmm. Any questions or discussion? By a show of hands, all in favor? Oppose? 5-0, Becky. 3.2, personnel position request. Dr. Pickles?
There's 4 positions that I would like approval to fill. 2 of them are food service. They're at Central. So they're coming out of the food service budget, and you are aware that food service is self-funded. There's the part-time custodian at Lee. He just resigned. There's 215 students at Lee, and they have 1 custodian now. So they are requesting that they are able to fill that half-time position for the remainder of the year. And then our payroll and benefits position with the upcoming retirement of our benefits person, where Mr. Copeland's going to be down another person. We are currently contracting out our payroll, so we really need to try to fill that position and combine that person. So that's kind of where we are in the way Mr. Copeland was wanting to move with his office and department. So I am asking for approval. So 2 will be general funds, and then 2 will be federal programs.
I have a question concerning the custodian. Is there a custodian in the district that we were about to cut that could go to Lee?
Not a part-time.
And concerning the payroll and benefits, I mean, I think we need to look at within the district of who we have as secretaries, because, I mean, in the summer, we're going to have to make cuts.
I'm sure Mr. Copeland will advertise internally first.
I mean, we're going to have to make cuts, so it looks like we would fill it from within rather than to hire someone, because, I mean, in all reality, we've avoided it tonight, but we're going to have to sit down and there's going to have to be cuts made of probably around 30 people in all reality.
That is very true.
And so, I mean, it's...
Madam Chairman, may I address that?
Yes.
With Mr. Alford, to answer your question, with the collective bargaining agreement we just approved, we approved to be able to advertise them internally and on the web at the same time. And obviously in that same process, we take those internal, if they meet the qualifications, they would take precedence over anybody on the outside.
But I understand that.
Because if we have to make a cut, whoever you hire would be the last one hired, so they would ultimately be the first.
Just to make it open for everybody, for all of those, even those who might be cut.
But, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that if we have someone that could be transferred in there, I think we need to do that before we advertise and hire, because in all reality, we're going to have to cut. We're going to have to cut people.
Right. And I certainly understand. I'm just trying to share with the practices.
And we have a lot of...
all an opportunity to, all secretaries, an opportunity within the district.
We have a lot of people in the district who are clerks, receptionists, and secretaries.
Correct.
For this to be a school system.
I've got a question for Mr. Copeland. Was this position filtered into the plan that was going to be presented tonight? Okay, because you're...
You mean as far as the numbers?
Right.
No, it was not.
No, I have not dropped that in there.
Okay. I didn't know if that was part of the plan. Go ahead.
I agree with you 100%, and however we follow the HR rules, that would be my preference also. And keep in mind that
whoever we're losing a great employee to retirement in that position, but we will be able to gain some savings because the person that comes in will not be anywhere near the level of payroll.
I can understand Mr. Alfred's, concern for sure.
I mean, at this time where there's so much uncertainty and we're not knowing what we're going to have to cut in a few weeks, it just seems, and we've just gone through all we've gone through, and we've done a hiring freeze, but yet we're here having these people put before us. Now, the school does have to be clean, but I just ask that if we have custodians in the district that could go there, that's a whole nother issue, but I mean, it's hard to sit here and know that we're having.
Is there any way that even if you have, because it's a halftime position at least, can you be halftime at one school and halftime at another school?
Yes, it can.
So somebody from one of the bigger schools could be halftime at the high school or central and the other half at Lee.
But right now, there's only one other 4-hour custodian in the district because the one in Greenville resigned as well. But we're not filling that position because we collapsed the size of the building.
Right.
So the other one left is actually in Pine Meadow.
That's a halftime?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But I'm talking, if you have a custodian at Central that could stay halftime at Central and do the other half, you can't do that. But they would be a full-time if they did half at Central and half at Lee.
They don't have a 4-hour position at Central. They have a 6-hour position, and then they do an additional 2-hour contract at the Excel school to cover it. So that person essentially is 4-hour or full-time already.
Before we advertise, I don't know if we could talk to one of them at the high school and see if they can I don't know. I'll have to look. Because we were looking at shifting one here due to seniority. So, we can try to do some finagling beforehand. Due to the
Could you check into that, and we'll meet again next Tuesday?
Yes, ma'am.
If nothing works out, then you have to do what you have to do, but check and see if that's any kind of possibility to save, and maybe even ask that other halftime one, do they want to be full-time? Because then you would at least save the benefits if it works out. I don't know the hours that they would be needed and things. I don't know.
The only part-time one that could actually do that, pick up those 4 hours, is the one from Pine Meadow. Because it's going from 4 hours in Pine Meadow to 4 hours in Lee. And that would be 8 full hours. Anything over 8 hours, you got to have time.
Right.
I'd like to pull this item until Tuesday, if it's all right with the board.
It's fine with
And
me.
we'll discuss it, and maybe Dr. Pickles can give us some information on Tuesday.
Okay, all of it or just the?
We'll pull the entire item until Tuesday. Okay, 3.3 Financial Recovery Plan, Dr. Pickles, Mr. Copeland.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hi.
It's good to see each of you and know that you're diligently at work trying to make sure that our system can survive this particular crises that we have right now. I would like to say that it is a great thing that if it pans out to be that you're not going to be able to won't cut jobs until the summer. I think that's a great thing. But I want to remind this board, certainly, that is a short-range plan. And this board really should be considerate of the long-range plan that you find yourself facing year after year after year. And that's declining enrollment with all of the other expenses that continue to go up. Facility costs, the cost of fuel, the cost of personnel, the cost of health care, etc. When you look at your budget, the state says that they give you roughly around $19, $20 million. And when you subtract from that the pass-through to the different schools and the other places, it leaves you around $16 million, $16 million. You're in a pretty tight jam when that $16 million, as you have budgeted for the 5 public schools we have, end up, and you find yourself faced with automatic step increases, and those step increases end up putting you in peril. That's not how you ought to be running this. If you got a $16 million budget, minus all the pass-throughs, certainly $260,000 ought not put you in the hole. And for the many years that I was union president, I never understood why districts would always say, we've got to pay the automatic step. To find yourself in that kind of financial desperate simply says that somebody is not putting enough effort in making sure that you planned appropriately and you budget appropriately and you hire staff appropriately so that you can meet all of those contractual obligations. I want to remind this board, strongly so, that it is absolutely critical for you to think long range, not just till the summer. When the summer is here and you have to cut those positions, you also should consider what the long-range impact is going to be, even after you cut those positions. Because one of the things that I've learned in all the experiences that I had working with the school system and being a part of the union and being the president of the union, no organization can cut their way out of the deficits that Madison County is facing right now.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
So I would certainly ask you all to think real deeply about a long-range plan, because remember, Jefferson is just across the water over there, and they're a constant reminder of what can happen.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
And I apologize for not getting
No,
Okay, financial recovery plan. Dr. Pickles, Mr. Copeland.
If you'll look to the PowerPoint, it has been said that I have not told y'all that our financial issues are due to the third calculation. I had this PowerPoint on January 24th, and we've discussed it numerous times that our financial problems are due to our third calculation reduction. So this time I decided to print out the PowerPoint for you instead of just showing it on the screen as we did at the high school that night. So I did add a couple slides to this because I've now updated it due to our financial recovery plan. So for the audience, if you'll please look at this screen. Now I'm sorry it's a little small. I will upload it into Board Docs so you can look at this. I've gone through this. It has the historical 5-year trend for our FTE. So we go through that. It shows we've had the declining enrollment. It shows when the charter started. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time. The FEFP runs from March 8th, our projection, and then our July 17th, which is our second calculation. Our unweighted FTE was 2731. Our third calculation, which came out on July 11th, was 2569. So those dates, March 8th and July 11th, and that was all uploaded into Board Docs for your review, along with the full FEFP. So it showed the comparison. Everything was in there. So those dates from March and then this January 11th, it shows the dates there. So I just put all this together and I just pulled out the biggest figures. So we went from a 20 million down to a 19 million in our total budget. Now we still have to give the money to the charter schools. Still have to give the money to our DJJ. So on our next one, our biggest expenses that we have are payroll, our operation of our plants, and then transportation. I even talked about that night how transportation, we're roughly only getting now about 35% of transportation with this reduction now. I also went through that night and told you this is not isolated to Madison. Hamilton County lost money, Suwannee County lost money, Taylor County lost money. I think that, I haven't looked at the FEFP run, but I think Suwannee County was around 300,000, Hamilton County was about 500,000, Taylor County was about 300,000 or 400,000, Wakulla lost money. This was statewide. This was not just Madison County. So everybody across the state, I talked to someone down south. I mean, South Florida is dealing with it. Leon County is dealing with it. It's just, ours was our fund balance. We did not have a healthy enough fund balance to handle a $500,000 to $600,000 hit. So in December, when we had a 4.7, when I had just told y'all we needed to plan for the upcoming year, then this happened. It just hit us now instead of even when we were just starting to try to talk about it. And we had to start, we're dealing with it as an emergency now instead of trying to start planning for it. So I left the same slide from our fiscal study, things we have to address. Our FRS costs are going up. I hate to tell you, that's fixing to happen again. So where it's gone up, it will go up again. There's a bill out there. They're looking at it. Our FRS costs are gonna go up again. We continue to have rising costs with things that as a district we have to address, that we're gonna have to pay. So FRS, our benefits are going to continue to increase. And as long as we have a declining enrollment, we're going to have less revenue come in. So we have to have a long-term plan and solution in place to build this fund balance. Mr. Williams is right. We can't cut our way out. We can't just cut employees. That's not going to work. So, Mr. Stallman, if you'll go to the financial emergency, and I know that's hard to read. Now, this is straight out of statute. Financial emergency occurs when a district cannot pay their obligations. We are not below zero. We are less than 2%. We're at a 1.09 to a 1.16, so we're right in there somewhere. I think working with Mr. Eggers and Ms. Pridgeon and DOE in the financial office, after they were having us pull out all the pass-through, we were right at 1.09. So in January, the budget amendment, we were showing 1.7. We then have to send our information to them, and they have us pull out all the charter pass-through monies. And so when they did that, that even lowered our budget even more. And so they wanted to see the fiscal state. They wanted to see everything I can give them. So I have been working with them. I've now drafted, somewhere over here, our fiscal recovery plan. An hour before we met with the DOE officials when they came last week, Mr. Copeland received an email regarding our insurance cost share, health insurance cost share. If you'll recall, in our January financial, he had already recorded a portion of that. He just found out our second portion of that amount is coming in. That cost share is what is saving people's jobs right now, because it's a total of $354,000 that we are getting this month. That is what is saving this district and saving people's jobs, that and 2 furlough days. But that is not something that we can count on from year to year. That is not something that we can say, okay, well, we'll use this insurance next year. So we have to make cuts. We're going to have to, Mr. Alford, we will have to make cuts. In the next few weeks, we will have to plan for this. So triggering this, we have to do a fiscal recovery plan. So we have identified areas. We have the 2 furlough days, which the union has ratified and the board has now approved. That is roughly $110,000. There will be a little other savings due to transportation, electricity. We can't put a dollar figure with that just yet. This is just the salaries. So we've had to try to pinpoint the best we can. We know there's some indirect cost that we were able to apply that just hasn't, frankly, it has not been being done in past years. We did receive some information as far as our health insurance premiums. Changing our brokers back in December, if you'll recall, we changed our health insurance broker. They have been very aggressive for us. So we're able to get a reduction in our insurance premium for the remaining months. So from March to June, we'll have a savings of roughly $20,000. There's some other, the solid waste and a few janitorial savings of roughly about $73,000. So with this new health insurance premiums and then the positions, the retirements and resignations, that was about $50,000. We've come up with $446,000. To get us above 3%, we had to have $400,000. And that, when we met with the DOE last week, that's what we knew we had to have. So roughly we should now hopefully be at 3.65. That is taking into account that we do not have any audit adjustments. I've sent the draft over to DOE, waiting to see what they want me to change or edit. And my deadline to them is tomorrow. That's the deadline that I set for myself. It is required by Tuesday. So, and the figures are up there, and it's in your document, and I will put it there for the public. So, without these furlough days and this cost share from the insurance, we would have to be cutting positions. This insurance cost share is really helped us. What are our next steps? To go ahead and look at what we need to do as far as position cuts. But I'm going to go ahead and after next week, after I've finished submitting this and find out and get everything to the commissioner, I'm going to go ahead and establish a long-term planning committee and go ahead and set that up. Look at positions, go back to looking at positions where we can tighten up positions and change positions. Continue our negotiations. Mr. Copeland has, with our health insurance, upon renewal, they're being very aggressive. And so, but some of these things won't happen until next year. And so every contract that comes up, it's a matter of, can we renegotiate? We have an appointment tomorrow to meet with somebody about benefits. So it's everything we can do. And it's a constant thing. It's just sometimes we're already locked into a contract and we have to wait till the contract comes up. So this long-term planning committee, I'll go through the fiscal study. I talked to Mr. Olivia, and we will take a lot of the recommendations in there and start there. As he said, it's got a lot of good information. So we will start with that and have this committee provide long-term solutions for the board to consider. Any questions?
Thank you for reviewing this. I think we were aware of this PowerPoint when we saw it before. Let me ask you something. Have we received any feedback on the draft that you sent over there?
No.
Okay.
I sent my letter. Today is Wednesday. I sent it Monday, and then I added some more information, and then I sent actually this part because this is the financial aspect with the actual numbers, and I've sent it late this afternoon.
Okay, very good. Board members, I attended the meeting with Mr. Oliva last week, and members of the DOE, other members of the DOE, Mr. Stallnaker, Mr. Copeland, Dr. Pickles, Ms. Messina, Florida School Board Association. It was a very positive meeting. There was no mention of closing schools or doing away with positions. As a matter of fact, Mr. Olivas stated, when a person starts a job, they expect to finish it. So what we did was basically enable them to finish their year out. We are very aware that decisions will have to be made. It's very disruptive to eliminate positions in the middle of the year. It's very stressful for not only the children, the community, the employees. So what we've done, I felt good about the meeting after I came out of it. They were very helpful. As I said, they're not there to point fingers. They're there to support us, which they did. Any other comments? Yes.
You've got two things on here on the apply the indirect cost on food service and solid waste on food service. Does the board need to do a budget amendment?
It would be in the budget amendment for Tuesday.
I've got other ones outside of these
Okay.
changes I have to clean up.
So you can do your plan though without a budget amendment?
Yes, it's already uploaded in Tuesdays with all of these things.
Mr. Copeland, I'd like to thank you. I know you've spent hundreds or thousands of hours on this. I mean, lots of time. Dr. Pickles, we appreciate what you've done, and we would say thank you for coming up with a plan.
I would like to say, too, that I was very touched and very proud that we have so many wonderful people working for us, that 91% of the faculty and staff agreed to 2 furlough days. This society in this world anymore is the attitude of me. And to know that that many people that work for us were willing to do what they needed to do for their jobs and their fellow employees' jobs was very touching to me. And I'm proud of all of you and proud to be associated with you.
Yes. Thank you. Any other comments? To show our support, I'd like to make this in the form of a motion to approve the financial plan. Do we have a motion to approve the financial recovery plan?
I'll make the motion to approve the short-term financial recovery plan.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Williamson, second by Ms. Bell to approve the financial recovery plan. Any discussion or questions? By a show of hands, all in favor? Becky, 5-0. All right. We will go to public comment, non-agenda items. Mimi, excuse me?
Yeah, a total of 30 minutes. I guess the policy, do you need a timer for individual?
I don't think we'll take more than 30 on this. Thank you. Mimi, the Polschel.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for losing my voice at the moment, but of course the weather change is catching us all. I wanted to speak to you tonight because in completing one of my last classes that I've had to take, I've noticed some blessings that we have within our district, and I think we all need to be aware of those as we look at what we face with our financial issues. We currently are a school district that has 1-to-1 computer ratio within every school in our district. We have technology options available to our students, our staff, and our families at home that allow the kids to work on problems away from the classroom. These same programs that we utilize within the classroom allows our teachers to be able to grade less physical paper, which means some of that work that we take home with us doesn't necessarily have to be done at home. We want to continue using these programs, so in the future, please remember that we do have programs available to us that help us. Secondary to that, know that the other districts possibly around us and in the neighboring states do not have 1-to-1 computer ratios. If we have excess technology, I would ask that you guys would consider, and when I'm saying excess stuff that's outdated or unused, I would ask that you guys consider looking to these other districts around to see if possibly we can make a deal with them in some way of cleaning up our computers and, you know, putting a cost on it or whatever the case is. It can bring us a little bit of dollars maybe towards maintenance of keeping our 1-to-1 ratio or keeping our programs. Secondary to that, when you look at the position cuts that we may face in the future for the next years, I'm going to ask each one of you to truly take the time this year to walk in the steps of those individuals. I know they have job descriptions with duties listed on paper, but I'm going to tell you from my previous positions and my current position as a teacher, those job duties don't tell you what that person does. And until you physically walk at least a full day to 2 days with them, you don't know everything that person really does. I've heard some job descriptions discussed in the past meetings, and that's not what those people do. It doesn't even come close to describing it. So when considering the future for our kids who do have a future with what we have available to them, please take a moment and think about those things. We're blessed with what we've got. And instead of pulling it apart, let's fight together to make it where it needs to be.
Thank you, Ms. Minnie.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Superintendent items, Dr. Pickles.
The only thing, as of 11:29 on Tuesday, Mr. Ginn has not heard any news regarding the plant survey.
Have the people responded to him?
He did hear, but nothing has been started.
But nothing
yet.
has been.
He did hear back
Okay.
from Ms. Brown.
Thank you for that information. Mr. Reeves?
No, ma'am, no, unless you have questions of me.
Ms. Williamson? Ms. Bell?
I want to thank Mr. Copeland and Mr. Sam and Mr. Pickles and everybody for all that y'all did and all the hard work that y'all did, and the people that accepted the furlough days. I truly appreciate that. To help save all the jobs that we could save.
I too want to thank the district staff for all their work and all the work that's gone into this, and the employees within the district who gave up the 2 days, because that does go a long way, and it helped people from losing their jobs. The one question I do have is, we need to set a date that we're going to review bills.
I think it should be monthly for sure.
Absolutely, but we need to we need to get that ball rolling, because that is something we have every day is bills, and I just think that we need to set a date and start doing it.
Right. Well, excuse me. Mr. Oliva told us we have to watch very carefully the money that's being spent, and of course we're very aware of that.
Again, as a board member, I'm not doing this to be trying to micromanage, but I think we're at a state where it's in our best interest and the district's best interest to be as proactive as we can. And I view this as a proactive step. And as a board member, I'll welcome doing it. It is going to take extra time, but it's something that we need to do. And I'll go ahead and say at the next meeting, I'm going to ask to be placed on the agenda to decrease the spending amount where the board has to approve under a certain amount, lower than what it is right now. But again, that could be a time where we can do it, but I just feel at this time that it's essential that we do that.
I think in addition, I'd like to have the FTE at each school each month. I'd like to know how many students are at each school and each grade each month. I'd like a report on that.
You would ask for that
every
to
month.
be at the board meetings, and the reports will be generated for the workshop and the board meetings.
Okay, all right.
And it's also going to include the number of open positions.
Yes, is basically as much information as we can get.
But yeah, I'm just going ahead and stating that we need to come up with a date. And again, I'm go ahead and say that at the next meeting, I'm going to have it on the agenda to have where we have to, it's going to be a dollar threshold that's much lower than what it is now. So we are going to have a lot more to approve. But I think as board members that we need to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Alford. Mr. Daniels?
First of all, I'd like to commend everyone who played a role in looking at every avenue to save positions. I was very passionate about this issue. I'm thankful that we were able to salvage the positions for now. We know that it's just a matter of time before we will have to revisit the issue. But for now, at least, I'm thankful. I also wanted to commend the teachers, the staff, and all of the district staff who are sacrificing the 2 furlough days. Just wanted to inform you all, and those of you who've been present in the meetings know that we have also, we will also be participating in that as well as board members. And so I'm just thankful. I'm thankful that we'll be able to press, the staff will be able to, at least until the end of the school year, have time to at least kind of search, look, and until at least the end of the school year. So I'm thankful.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. I'd like to thank Jetta Roberts, the union president, and her team for all their hard work and dedication. Also, I'd like to thank all of our employees for supporting our school system. It is a sacrifice for them. We're all going to take a sacrifice. Thank you. You are so much appreciated. I'd like to share this thank you note with the board members. Dear school board members, thank you so much for the support you have given all of us who are teachers of the year at the schools in the district. It was so nice to see a table of our board members at the banquet. We appreciate your dedication to the students in our community. Dorita Pinkert, 7th grade math teacher, Madison County Central School. Board members, I'd like you to take a look at this form that was put in front of you about the direction to reduce our salary of the school board members. I'd like to suggest a 5% decrease in our pay for the next, basically it would be something taken out, it would be something taken out of our check for the next 5 months. A little more than the 2 furlough days, actually. So we'll be giving back more than the 2 furlough days. Would you like to explain it, Mr. Reeves? Or have I done a good job of it?
I think that's fine. And I think actually it would be, I don't know how many, it's through the end of the year.
Through the end of the year.
If you, and this is just rough math, if you did 20 work days a month, 5% is one of those days per month. If you're doing it over 4 months, so that's, kind of, like I said, just rough math, that would get you at least to the 2 furlough days that everyone else is taking.
Okay, thank you.
Probably more.
Probably more,
But
okay.
it's just a round number, and you can figure the exact number if you want, and do it that way. But
So
I don't think the dollars are going to
that would be a 5% decrease. How does the board feel about this?
That's fine with me, and so we just need to sign this and give this to Mr.
5%
Cooper.
and sign your name? Okay, very good. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make the motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Williamson, second by Ms. Bell. Meeting is adjourned.